You are not supposed to know this room exists. No address, no sign, no windows facing the street. The people inside have never spoken about what happens here. Not to journalists, not to their spouses, not under oath. Some of them run countries. Some of them run the companies that fund countries. And tonight, they invited you. You don't know it yet, but this invitation is not a beginning. It is the end of the person you used to be. Your life at every level of a secret society. Let's establish what's real, because the reality is more interesting than the mythology. The Freemasons count George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, and 14 US presidents among their verified members. Their structure runs to 33 degrees. Most members never pass degree 3. Skull and Bones, founded at Yale in 1832, has produced 3 US presidents, multiple CIA directors, and Supreme Court justices. In 2004, both presidential candidates, George W. Bush and John Kerry, were members. The society had a guaranteed bonesman in the White House regardless of the outcome. The Bohemian Grove, a private 2,700-acre redwood forest in California, hosts an annual retreat attended by sitting presidents, intelligence chiefs, and the CEOs of the largest corporations on Earth. In 2000, a journalist infiltrated it and filmed the opening ceremony. The footage made international news. The club declined to comment. The Bilderberg Group meets annually, invitation only, no press, no minutes, to discuss global economic policy and security strategy. Participants include NATO commanders, central bank governors, and heads of state. These are not conspiracy theories. These are facts. 7 levels. One question underneath all of them. How much of the world is run by people who are never on the ballot? Level 1, the outsider. You are 32 years old, unusually good at what you do, the right schools, the right reputation, the right trajectory. One morning, a letter arrives. Not an email, a letter. Heavy paper, wax seal, your name written by a human hand. Inside, a single sentence. You have been recommended for consideration. No organization name, no contact information, just a date, a time, and an address. What you don't know, you've been observed for months, possibly years. Someone in the organization knows your work, your reputation, who speaks highly of you and who doesn't. The letter didn't arrive by coincidence. Secret societies don't advertise. They don't accept applications. They select. The Freemasons require a recommendation from an existing member. You don't ask to join, you are asked. Skull and Bones selects 15 Yale juniors each spring. A current member physically approaches the candidate, claps them on the shoulder, and says only, "Go to your room." A message arrives that night. The decision must be made within 24 hours. No one is tapped twice. What all selection processes share, they collect people already on a trajectory toward power. They don't create powerful people. They organize them. The most consequential thing these organizations do is not their rituals, not their symbols, not their secrets. It is the network. Relationships built in rooms with no journalists, no records, and no social distance between a junior banker and a head of state. That is what you're about to enter. A level 2, the initiate. You go to the address, a building you've walked past 100 times without noticing. No logo, no plaque. A door that opens before you knock. Inside, you are asked to surrender your phone, your watch, your wallet. Everything that marks you as a specific person in the outside world. You are told this is symbolic. Then the ceremony begins. The entered apprentice, Freemasonry's first degree. You are blindfolded, led into the lodge room. You cannot see the men assembled around you, only hear them. A checkerboard floor, columns, an altar. In whom do you place your trust? You answer, you take an oath. Historically, the oath William Morgan published in 1826, causing a national political crisis, it included symbolic penalties for betraying the society's secrets. Modern lodges have removed the penalties. The symbolism remains. Your blindfold is removed. The men around you look at you with an expression you'll remember for the rest of your life. Not warmth, recognition, as if they've been waiting. Skull and Bones, the tomb. Initiates are brought to the tomb at night. What follows? According to former members and investigative accounts, lying in a coffin and recounting your sexual history aloud. Being covered in mud. Theatrical scenes involving death and rebirth symbolism. The discomfort is deliberate. Shared vulnerability creates durable bonds. Military units use the same principle. After that night, you and the 14 other initiates share something that cannot be communicated to anyone who wasn't in the room. That shared untranslatable experience is the foundation of the network. What you actually receive? No world domination manual. No map to buried treasure. A handshake. a word, a set of symbols you will now notice everywhere, in architecture, art, and currency, and understand in a way you did not before. And something that cannot be named. You are now inside something. The door that was closed your entire life is open. You walk out into the night as a different person than the one who walked in. And the next level, the one that will take years to fully understand, has already begun. Level 3, The Brother, 5 years have passed. You've completed the 3 Blue Lodge degrees, entered Apprentice, Fellow Craft, Master Mason. But the degrees didn't change you, the room did. The network effect. In your lodge, a federal judge, 2 city councilmen, a hospital administrator, a retired general, a real estate developer worth hundreds of millions. In the outside world, getting an hour with any one of them requires months of scheduling. In the lodge, you sit next to them at dinner. When you need something, an introduction, a letter, a door opened, you ask a brother. He helps, because that is what brothers do. And next month, he will need the same from you. Your Masonic membership is also portable. A Master Mason can walk into any lodge anywhere in the world, Paris, Tokyo, Buenos Aires, and be received as a brother. The handshake and the word work in any language. You are never a stranger in a city where a lodge exists. The Bohemian Grove. Every July, a 2,700-acre private redwood forest in Sonoma County, California hosts roughly 2,500 of the most powerful men in American and international life. Every Republican president since Herbert Hoover, numerous Democratic presidents, secretaries of defense, CIA directors, Federal Reserve governors, Fortune 500 CEOs. They stay for 2 weeks. They wear casual clothes. They drink heavily. They attend policy discussions called Lakeside Talks in complete privacy. Under the Chatham House rule, anything said may be used, but the speaker can never be identified. The Manhattan Project was first discussed as a possibility at Bohemian Grove in 1942. The opening ceremony is the cremation of care. In 2000, journalist Alex Jones infiltrated the Grove and filmed it. Robed figures, a 40-foot concrete owl, a torch-lit procession. A recorded voice, for many years Walter Cronkite's voice, speaking from inside the statue. An effigy representing worldly anxiety burned at a lakeside altar. John Ronson, the British journalist who accompanied Jones, described his lasting impression as an all-pervading sense of immaturity. These people might have reached the apex of their professions, but emotionally, they seemed trapped in their college years. Apex of profession. Emotionally arrested. That may be the most accurate portrait of power close-up that anyone has ever written. Level 4, The Adept. Most members stop at Degree 3, you did not. Something in the lodge made it clear to a senior member that you wanted to understand what the symbols actually meant, what the history actually was. You were invited to continue. The Scottish Rite. Degrees 4 through 32. Each degree is a dramatic ceremony with its own symbols, its own allegorical story, its own revelation. Many were developed in 18th century France and encoded Enlightenment ideas. Separation of church and state, individual rights, in symbolic language at a time when stating these ideas openly could get you imprisoned. As you advance, a picture assembles, not of a conspiracy, but of a philosophy, a map of how ideas actually move through societies, not through public declarations, but through private conversations in rooms with no windows. The Bavarian Illuminati, True History. In 1776, the same year the Declaration of Independence was signed, a Bavarian professor named Adam Weishaupt founded a secret society inside the Freemasons called the Order of the Illuminati. This is not myth. It is documented history. Weishaupt's goal was explicitly political, use the Masonic network to spread Enlightenment values, undermine the church and hereditary aristocracy, and create a world governed by reason. His members included prominent intellectuals and noblemen across Europe. The Bavarian government discovered the organization in 1785. They raided his home, seized his papers, and published the documents as a warning to other governments. The organization was officially dissolved. Whether it simply went deeper is a question historians still debate. What is not debatable? The idea that a small organized network of the right people operating in deliberate secrecy can move history has been the operating assumption of every elite institution that followed. The psychological shift. By the upper degrees, something has happened that is hard to describe. You see differently. You walk into any room and read it, the architecture, the symbols, the arrangement of object as a language. You understand that most of what people believe about how the world works is a simplified story told to those who haven't been given the more complicated version. It starts as arrogance, then it becomes something more unsettling, a kind of loneliness. The world looks different from inside the structure, and the people you love outside it live in a version you no longer fully believe. Level 5, the architect. 25 years since initiation, you are now a person of consequence, and you receive a second invitation. Not to a lodge, to a hotel, the Bilderberg Group. Every year, approximately 130 people, politicians, central bankers, military commanders, intelligence officials, tech executives, gather at a five-star hotel. Location changes yearly. Government security provided, press prohibited within the perimeter. No minutes, no statements, Chatham House rule throughout. Critics note that the absence of formal votes is the point. Decisions made in public require justification and democratic accountability. Decisions reached through private consensus among the right people simply become policy through the natural movement of those people back into their institutions. Researchers have attributed early discussions of NAFTA to a 1991 Bilderberg meeting. A peer-reviewed article in the American Journal of Economics and Sociology described the Bilderberg Group, the CFR, and the Trilateral Commission as providing a space within which advocates of global control can share ideas and develop new policies. The 33rd degree. In the Scottish Rite, the 33rd degree is honorary. It cannot be earned, only given, conferred on members who have demonstrated exceptional influence in the outside world. Former recipients describe the ceremony as reframing everything that came before, all 32 degrees, as preparation for a single revelation about the organization's true role in history. What that revelation is remains unknown outside the room. The CFR, founded in 1921, every significant figure in American foreign policy across both parties for a century, Kissinger, Brzezinski, Rice, Clinton, over a dozen former CIA directors, multiple Federal Reserve chairs. One former member described it plainly. The CFR is the establishment, not the conspiracy, the establishment, the people who actually run things, as opposed to the people who appear to run things. Level 6, the invisible hand. There is a level above all of this that has no name. Not a lodge, not a society, not a committee, a set of relationships between perhaps 30 or 40 people across a handful of countries, with no formal structure, no initiation ceremony, no documented existence. And yet, what this level looks like? No meetings, phone calls, dinners, handwritten notes in envelopes not entrusted to ordinary mail. You know things that cannot be published, not because they are dramatic secrets, but because they come from relationships. What a particular leader actually believes versus what they say publicly. Which institutions are in financial difficulty before the markets are told. Which technologies are coming before the patents are filed. This knowledge is not used dramatically. It is used quietly in decisions that seem, from the outside, like the natural movement of events. The honest question, is this a conspiracy? It depends on what you mean. If conspiracy means a unified organization with total control executing a master plan, almost certainly no. These organizations are too human for that, riddled with competing interests, personal ambitions, and spectacular failures. If conspiracy means people making private agreements for their own benefit at the expense of others, then the documented record includes instances of exactly that. The reality is something less dramatic and more disturbing. A loose network of people who went to the same schools, belong to the same clubs, share the same fundamental assumptions about how the world should work, and have access to each other in ways that no one outside the network does. That is not a conspiracy. That is a structure. And structures, unlike conspiracies, don't require planning. They require only continuity. Level 7, the architect of the architecture. Somewhere, in a letter written 3 centuries ago, in a manifesto published by a Bavarian professor who believed the world could be remade by the right people in the right rooms. This all began. Somewhere, in a meeting no journalist will ever attend, it continues. The highest level is not a rank. It is a perspective. It is the understanding that the most powerful position is not the one with the most visible authority. It is the one that defines the conditions within which everyone else makes their decisions. The curriculum, the culture, the set of assumptions about how the world works that are so deeply embedded that most people never notice they've been installed. Weishaupt understood this. The founders of Skull and Bones understood this. The men who established the CFR understood this. They weren't trying to run the world. They were trying to ensure the world was run by people who shared their values, their education, and their vision of what civilization should become. Whether that ambition is noble or terrifying depends entirely on whose values you're talking about. And the question at the center of every secret society that has ever existed is this: who decided that these are the right people to be in the room? The answer, the one that should unsettle you, is they did. 7 levels. From the outsider who received a letter on heavy paper to the architect who writes the letters. Power has always built rooms that outsiders can't enter, and then made those rooms feel inevitable, natural, the way things have always been. The Freemasons encoded the Enlightenment in symbols because you couldn't publish it openly without risking your life. Skull and Bones built a network because in 1832 they understood that who you know matters more than what you know. Bilderberg meets in private because informal consensus is more efficient than democratic deliberation, and considerably harder to challenge. These are rational choices made by people who understood power better than most. The question is not whether secret societies exist. The question is whether knowing they exist changes anything. That they would prefer you not to think about too hard. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe, like, and share it with a friend, and leave your suggestions for the next video in the comments.